Those are two ranges. There are fifth grade classes that do SAT words and like fourth grade classes. Yeah.
Fifth grade?
Yeah. Yeah. Public schools or private schools. The like, I guess this is to show like, you have fifth graders that can barely read. You have fifth graders that are like 5, 6, 7, 8 grade levels beyond. Like this is the disparity in American education systems. And this is part of the problem, right? Like we're talking about motivating students. Even in discussions here, talking about how do we, because we have to go through these, maybe I shouldn't say negative things on camera, but you have to go through these like workshops and these classes where like this is how you instruct undergraduates. This is the level that they're at. And one of the big questions that always comes up is like, who do you teach to, right? You might have very high performing students who perform exceedingly well, but if the coursework is remedial for them, let's say it's a few grade levels below, they might not be interested. They might show poor performance because they're not paying attention, because if they are mastery oriented, right, more than any of the performance goals, they might say, hey, this doesn't matter to me. I'm not engaged. And the result is they perform well and people think that they're underperforming students. So that, feeds into this problem of you have students in these low-performing schools that maybe in aggregate show the same level of performance on a test, but the underlying motivation and the ability to perform is radically different. That's a substantive problem. And there are a whole host of other problems, but bringing it back to the point that I was making here about this class and how they tell you to teach. They say teach towards the middle, which if we're looking at like a normal distribution, right, you say the largest chunk of students, that's who I'm getting at. This is a little tangential here. I think this fits quite well here. But I'd like to know what your responses to this thought experiment was. And I'm interested to know if we have any competing ideas. And what I would like us to do while we're doing this is to think about how our responses either support or build into these different ideas of performance goals. Like we might have had an idea of how to approach the problem, but I would like us to also do some analysis at the very end. Even if you don't do it, that's fine. Thinking about how we try to work these into our response or our dealings with these students. Does that make sense? Right? You've done this work, now let's bridge this to this as well. Okay, who wants to go first? Should we recap the problem, or you have students that can't, students from an underperforming school, how do you talk to them about college, especially like high achieving schools, however we want to classify them, while maintaining motivation or interest, even though there's such a long time away from that and there might be difficulties at home and at school that prohibit that. Elizabeth first, and then we'll go back.
I was gonna say, like,
Speak louder.
Sorry. I was gonna say, like, I wouldn't be talking to them about, like, high level colleges or, like, maybe at that age when you're 10, like, college at all. I'd just be, like, focusing on, like, building good habits that will help you once you get to the stage where you're thinking about college. Because, like, I feel like if you either do two things, it can make a kid be, like, obsessively focused on grades. Like, that happened to me. Like, everyone in my life when I was, like, 6, it's like, oh, you need to get into Harvard, you need to do this, you need to do that. And, like, my performance approach score was 41. So,
Was that the highest?
yes, by far.
Okay.
And it just made me, like, instead of thinking about, like, oh, how am I going to do, and even to this day, like, instead of being like, how do I do better, like, in my field, like, how do I contribute, it's more like, oh, my professors probably think I'm stupid, like, what if my classmates think I'm dumb, like, I need to meet everyone's expectations. And I feel like the other side is what I've seen a lot of other people who, like, grew up with immigrant parents and have that pressure on them, is, like, instead of going that way, they do, like, the complete opposite direction to be like, oh, well, I didn't get an A in, like, 4th grade math, so I'm a failure forever, and I'm never going to do well. So it's just, like, I would just shift it. Like, maybe, like, encourage them to, like, read books they actually like, and then they'll build good habits, and then talk to them about that
So
later.
kind of what you're saying is there's a threat of either moving into work avoidance, which is like what you're saying right now, like who cares, which is neither one of these, or to focus so much on the demonstration of competence that you forego learning in and of itself. It's an impossible goal.
Yeah, like I feel like you should work on building intrinsic motivation before you focus so much on
External
yeah.
goals.
Yeah, like both are important, but I think you need to,
Mm-hmm.
have that first. You know what I mean?
Right. Anybody have a response to that? Let's try to go back and forth. Okay. Yes. Louder.
I just want to say that like I completely agree with that, and it made me think of like the fact that like growing up in grade school, middle school, high school, like I was so focused on like doing well in my classes that I like once I got to the point where I like was applying for college and wanted to choose a field of study, like I couldn't choose one, and I didn't know which one I wanted to choose because I think throughout like school I wasn't focusing on so much what I was passionate about. I was just focusing on like doing well in every subject that I didn't find a subject that I liked. But I mean, luckily, like eventually it led me to human development, and now I love that. But I will say that definitely like that point reminded me of like remembering that I struggle a lot with like finding what I wanted to study.
Right. So it's almost like you're recontextualizing the problems for the purpose of just achievement,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to, so like again, so you're kind of you're reframing things into this performance approach perspective where this is the thing that matters. It's not about, do you like this thing? Does this motivate you? The motivation is the reframing into something that might be more difficult for you in the long run, right? Does anybody think that's a positive thing to be able to reframe things, right? It can be positive. We can't forget that. None of these things are intrinsically bad. Like we may want to avoid work that is really difficult for us, right? But with respect to finding your desired path in life, that makes it, you have the capacity to achieve in a lot of things, but you don't have the opportunity to really, discover the things that you want to engage in mastery. That sound right for most people? Oh, yeah, let's just
I have like an opposite
loud.
scenario to my experience that she reminded me of. My dad, he's like theoretical physicist. He's like the smartest person I know, like ever, and he did not care about school at all. He never had any pressure. When he started college, he was actually like getting C's and D's in all of his classes. And then once he found physics and found how interested he was personally like in it, he ended up getting like straight A's, and he went to Cambridge, and he's like top of his field. So that's like sort of an opposite thing that reminded me of. I think that's like a really interesting.
So
Like he didn't have any pressure on him growing up. It was like
right, so opposite in terms of like
yeah,
external pressures.
yeah,
So there was the ability to find
yeah.
things that they wanted to
He
engage in
figured all of
mastery.
that on his own instead of having that like covered up by external pressure.
Right. Yes, just speak, yeah.
Similar kind of experience. I went to a magnet school that had programs for different majors and fields, and I found that while some people were able to go into, like, we had to apply to the school in middle school, which is, a little bit early for people to decide what they want to do for their whole life.
Right.
Some people get lucky and stick with that same program and like it. Some people didn't like their program and were fortunate enough to be able to realize that and switch in college. Some people, like a friend of mine, were not interested in the field that they chose in
Right.
middle school,
Right.
performed poorly in their classes because they weren't interested, and eventually had to like switch to a different school, or they just leave high school not really getting the most out of their education because you're told at a very young age that you have to decide what you want to do, and that can sometimes be like challenging for people and develop some kind of avoidance behavior because you think that you're not doing well in school, but it's just because you were forced to make a decision and you happened to choose the wrong field.
Can I ask what school it was? I want to know if it was the same school.
It was North Point High School in Charles County.
Okay. I went to Eleanor Roosevelt in PG County, which is like pretty similar. I don't know if anyone knows Roosevelt, but it was a science technology ST is what they called it. And it was kind of fun for me is that like it was sorry.
You'll survive, yeah. Just want to like put a hand on it if you really want it to stop.
But I had a similar experience in that it wasn't even that I. Stop it. It wasn't even that I really chose it in middle school. It was that actually pretty much everyone I knew in the program. 'Cause I don't know what everyone knows about PG County, but it's kind of like some schools, like homeschools, aren't the best. Like I know my school actually, because it's a magnet program, you go to a school that like you wouldn't normally go into. My homeschool actually, while I was at Roosevelt, there was actually shooting at my homeschool where someone died. So like, and that wasn't like unique to my school. So a lot of people, like I'd say probably like 2/3 of the program were not actually interested in science and technology. Or were just there because they didn't want to go to their homeschool.
Mm.
Which creates another dynamic where it's like, and like people performed because to get into that school you had to perform. Like
Right.
the lottery was very. I think like they did it based on GPA because of the COVID pandemic, and I think like the cutoff was literally 4.0 to get in, which adds in a whole other dynamic because like anyway. But I think it kind of like pigeonholed a lot of people I know because like personally I was never interested in that, and neither were a lot of people. So people are like either like losing those opportunities to have like more specific like humanities, social sciences type courses that I know are offered at some schools because we had all these extra requirements like engineering classes,
Mhm.
these extra science classes, and now none of them like even matter because I mean I'm not going into that, and like most of the people I know, like some of them are. So now I'm yapping, but I also feel like just like socially, we're almost like we're conditioned by like all of society to go for like both types of performance goals, not even just performance approach, but also performance avoidance. Because I know there was a lot of like, I'd say that like most of the people in my program had a bit of a complex of like not feeling like they belonged there, and so it was kind of like it wasn't just like to appear like intelligent, it was also to just like avoid being the odd one out. And I think that like that's kind of a big problem that education, like in general, especially like, yeah. I'm gonna stop talking now.
Those are good points. Good to bring it back here too. Yeah, there's a lot to chew on from all the speakers. Anybody want to jump in? Anybody want to continue? Yeah, just speak.
Yeah, I guess jumping on the bandwagon of going to a magnet school, I went to one as well, and it was a very big shift for me going from like middle school to high school. I almost failed out in my freshman year math class, and so I think like growing up without a lot of pressure to do well academically. Definitely made it a bit of an adjustment period in that regard, but I think it helped me a lot more long term figure out what I wanted because once I realized my long term plans, all my motivation was like very much intrinsic and internal to sort of what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is that how most people felt? Like they had an idea that there was a mastery goal orientation towards at least some subjects? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had to discover it. Like in 9th grade, I thought I was gonna do music for my career.
Mm.
But then once I narrowed down my interests more to be like engineering and to some extent computer science, I sort of had much more motivation to do well in my classes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Haley, you said you had a similar experience.
Yeah, my school was not a magnet school. We had like a program where like you would do research on like a specific topic. You kind of had to pick it freshman year, and it like took up like the entirety of like high school for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if you didn't like your topic, like you were kind of stuck with it. And like people who like loved their topic, like spent like weeks in labs, like doing a bunch of stuff. And the people who like didn't, like either had to drop the program, which like didn't look great, or like I don't know, were kind of stuck doing something they hated for like all of high school.
Right, right. Okay. This is all phenomenal, people. This goes back to, I think, fundamentally to some of the topics that we started off the semester with. What is the function of education? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of learning? Some people will say that the education system is designed for mastery. You, through this process of self-selection, what you are capable of doing with respect to the different classes that you have, as you go throughout this process, let's think about it. Let's start from the beginning. You have like elementary school. We all went to elementary school, right? Right. Well, I know some people have different cultural backgrounds. Okay, so then you have, maybe I just should have done Elm. I went to Elm Elementary School, actually. And then we have middle school. We can just like tack on here, right? Right. And then what do we have? We have high school, right? How did I forget that? Where do we have more or less choice compared to these two?
Depends on who you are.
Yeah.
Actually?
High school you go to, yeah.
So
How so?
in high school, you choose classes or no?
Yeah. I mean, I also chose classes in middle school and elementary.
Sure. But let's just focus on this for a second. Is there just more? Like antinomy? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So more choice, right? And then we just say less choice. And then you get to maybe you live life. Everybody here went straight to college or no? Do we have people that took gap years or worked? You worked?
No.
Yeah.
I did gap years too.
Gap years, that is uncommon, right? Okay, I think you're the only one in this class. Anybody else? Not to single you out. I think that's probably my girlfriend. Yes, somebody I knew in undergrad also did that. Gap year or whatever. And then you have college. This looks like a very delectable cake, right? We'll just do uni. If I had better planning, I would have done this better. So let's just say this has like ultimate choice, right? Sure.
I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily we have more choice in university. The reason why is I think purely from like an options perspective we do, but like in terms of how much it relates to like our financial future, I think there's fair. There's a nuanced perspective that you can pursue things when you're younger that you can't pursue once you actually need to build a career off of it.
Okay, so this is good. Let's define things as best we can. In university, you have the ability to enroll in almost any undergraduate course. We're going to disregard like prereqs or whatever. But there is a societal constraint, right, which we might point to a performance goal. Let's say it like this. If I was purely mastery focused, I did not care about employment, I could create whatever hodgepodge set of classes I could take while also being constrained by my major, right? Those are the functional choices. But we bring up this additional point. You have constraints. Do you want to get a job? Can I just take my ceramics class and I always heard as a kid, what are you doing for college? Underwater basket weaving? You guys ever hear that? No? Yeah, do you know what that is? Basket weaving underwater is supposed to be like useless. Sounds like a great skill that you could probably get really rich on TikTok with nowadays. But the point here is that the question is, there are certain things at each level that you have to learn, right? And so I want to bring this back to the original question, the original thought experiment here. Children in elementary school have to learn how to read, right? I think we can all agree. Is anybody willing to take the opposing opinion? Okay, good, because we were not going to talk too much about it. You have to read. You have to be able to communicate and understand things. You have to be able to do basic mathematical operations no matter what you do, right? The question here, though, is how do you do that while instilling and maintaining a mastery focus, if we're going to assume that this is generally good, avoiding work avoidance, and hopefully avoiding these as being the dominant goals. Does that question make sense? Right? We are constrained. We don't live in a world where some people have this fantastical idea that you can just go through here, without, and what's to say, you end up here with money, right? Right? This is your success. This is your home. This is with your happy family of however you want to define that. Happy family of one. Who knows? Who cares? That you can get through this purely with this. How many of you agree? Yeah, you do. Would you like to defend that position?
What, that you can be successful in life with mastery?
That you can go from being a child, only letting the child pursue the things that they care for at the times that they care for throughout their entire academic journey. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think it's possible.
Well, I think that's almost a straw man.
No. There are people that have this position.
But I mean, I wouldn't say someone that purely subscribes to mastery also necessarily thinks that the child should only pursue what they want to pursue.
So if the child focuses solely on mastering things that they care for,
Yeah.
I think it is possible.
you think, okay, but is that generally
Is it-
possible?
No, it's not probable.
It's plausible, but is it like practical?
No.
No. It can happen, but it's not like
Okay. Maybe we do get a little too philosophical in this class.
Yeah.
But Sam, did you take the same position? Did you think, like, the real question here is if the kid can't read, like, let's just put the stakes in the ground. If a kid can't read and they say, no, I want to watch, I was going to say Blue's Clues, but that's not Paw Patrol, Bluey, right? We know what we're talking about? I want to watch Bluey. I want to watch whatever. I want to 6, 7, this, that. What do we, is this, what would you do? Is it okay that these things develop? Right?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yes. It's just normal part of life.
What is normal part of life?
Having those things.
Yes, it's normal. But then the question here is, how do you simultaneously instill this value and this value and this value, if we're going to call all these goals values? Because sometimes it is very good not to display incompetence, right? You're in your job. The boss is here. Do you want to look like you don't know what you're doing?
No.
Okay, one person said no. I hope everybody is saying no in their heads. This is okay. This is also okay. This is probably the most important. The question that I have for you is, how much of your educational journey across these levels do you think you were afforded the opportunity to exercise or develop mastery? Talk about it in your groups for like 2 minutes.
Wait, can you say the question?
How, given at each level in your all right, let me rephrase. We have a beautiful multi-tiered cake here. In elementary school, how much opportunity did you have for mastery development? How much did you have it in middle school? How much did you have it in high school? How much did you have it in university now?
Clarifying question.
Yes.
Is this specifically, is this in like those parts of our lives as a whole, or specifically in the classroom?
Ooh. Do both.
Okay.
Did everybody understand that? In middle school, you're in class and outside of class. In middle school, inside, outside. How much did you have time to devote for all of these things? Talk, write it down. We're going to open it up for discussion. Yes?
Following up on if a kid just wants to watch Bluey, how is that not work avoidance instead of mastery? You know what I mean?
It's like, if we talk about
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think I got carried away with that. That analogy. Well, I guess focuses solely on the. I think. Yeah, that's actually really interesting. I'm not a motivation expert, but I think the question here is like, is there? What are the set of possible inputs here? The inputs is like work that you enjoy or tasks for which you find enjoyment, the display of competence and learning, and we can take out for the own sake. I know you don't like that, but then work avoidance is more like I want to get by with as little work as possible, and I just don't want to do that thing.
But what constitutes, like, are they really learning? I've never watched Bluey, so I don't.
And I don't know much about it either. I think it's just like a little kids show. I think you're right. I think it would be work avoidance.
I think it's easier transitioning from high school directly.
See, Elliot. Yeah, I think it would be work avoidance more than it would be. Your point was, how is it not work avoidance as opposed to mastery of whatever Bluey is? Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Because, I don't know, I feel like, you know, if a kid is given the means to get really good at something, and like they enjoy it, and so that it's a cyclic function in which, you know, their output feeds back into their input. I think that can lend itself to some very talented individuals.
I agree. I'll bring this up to the class, but in water polo, when I was in competitive water polo as a kid, one of the coaches was like, all these your parents better not come up to me and tell me that they want more well-rounded kids. If you're the best left-hander in the world, I'm not going to waste my time teaching you how to use your right hand. If you're the best, then if you're just this much better than what you are now, nobody will ever compete with you. If you have one thing on the team that adds value, even if all these other things aren't as great, if that adds enough value, because you're so specialized, you have that much mastery or whatever, then like that is the differentiating factor. If there are n number of dimensions, that's, you know, high quality. Like you get like all these prodigies and whatnot. It's like, did Yo-Yo Ma have great social, political understanding? No. Did he need it? No. He was a great cellist. Did Mozart need, you know, to be, I don't know how Mozart was as a mathematician, but like, did he need that functionally? No. Did he need good social skills? No. He was curt. He was like horrible. He was a child. He was like literally, like, there's this saying that like the age at which you become famous, you're kind of like stunted at. Same with like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was not like, you know, so it's like you see these people across history and like, yeah, you're so right. These people ended up being successful in that domain, right? So there is this feedback loop, and I'm sure there's more with regards to like developmental processes for which at a certain age, if you're capable of a certain thing, are you then capable of developing upon that even more at this critical developmental stage? Like, I don't know. A lot of prodigies end up falling off because a lot of their prodigious skill, maybe it's just like great pattern recognition, but they're not able to like apply that in novel domains or think creatively. So like you have kids that go to college at like 12 and like graduate with a PhD, and then they just kind of don't do anything, but that also might be limited by the set of inputs that they get across the lifespan. This is so beyond, I think, the original question that you asked, but does that make sense? Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, you see it in sports too. And I mean, there's counterexamples of this, but a lot of like baseball players played most of their life. Basketball for the most part.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes football.
Well, the one thing that I'll say about that is kids get burnt out. That's a thing. Another thing is general athletic ability tends to, unless you're talking about the incredible outliers. LeBron James played football in high school. All these people that hyper-specialize too early end up underperforming at the bigger stage because I think there's a lot of learning that happens across domains, generalized information that then becomes applicable or transferred in the specific domain of whatever sport. I think that generally tends to be the case. Okay, everybody. Let's just do this quickly. Just quickly shout it out. We don't need to elaborate on it. I just want to know, elementary school, how much did we have the ability, what proportion of our time inside the classroom did we have for mastery? Little. Can we quantify that? 5%, 10%, a quarter? Did we think about it in those terms, or did we just say a little, a lot, and then move on?
A little.
Okay, that's exactly what we're trying to avoid. Somewhat quantify people.
10%.
SAT words, 10%. Okay, thank you. Is that shared across everybody?
Yes.
10% for mastery.
Yeah.
They gave me like free range.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, so 90%. Okay, everybody. So 10% mastery to allow you to explore. The other 90% was just to satisfy whatever constraints, right? Very little choice. Middle school. 0. That's unfortunate.
It was like 30.
30%.
Call 'em 30.
15. 20.
20.
Anything else? Yes. 20.
I changed.
Change to 20. Okay, so one for every 5 hours, every 4 hours, the next hour, the 5th hour, you kind of had free. That kind of sounds like you got an elective,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we're thinking here. Okay, high school. 5%. What school did you go to?
It was more my parents. Very.
The physics.
I think it goes back to my.
I think this varies a lot. Mine went up.
People, I only speak numbers.
15.
15. Going once. 50.
40.
40. 40. 45.
I think it's non-linear. I don't know.
Non-linear does not. I do not compute. This side, people, numbers, any number. You don't have to listen to anything I just said for the last 30 minutes. Just give me a number. 36. Okay, that works. Diana. 45. Kaylee. Okay, somewhere in the 35. I think 36 was actually pretty good, Joshua. 35 to 45-ish range. So there's kind of more. The question I have for high school, is it because you cared more about the stuff that you were learning, or you had more ability to explore?
More ability to explore.
I think a little bit of both, but more towards ability to explore.
More? Okay.
More control over your schedule.
Yeah.
Less ability to explore.
That's quite unfortunate. And then hopefully, okay, let's get to university. Sorry, Sam, for our gap people here. I'm assuming you had a lot of ability to explore in your gap year, or no?
During COVID.
Oh.
That sucks. Shit.
Can you guys remind me how old you were during COVID again?
Like 16, yo.
17?
17, 18.
So 16. Okay, so COVID started like right when high school was starting to get fun. And then
It was sophomore year, I remember, for me.
sophomore year kind of sucked. Okay, so half of high school to more for some of us younger folk. Okay, and then university, that's really unfortunate. So that's where this comes into play. Okay, so you probably had a lot more time to do what you wanted to do in high school, right? Everything was remote. Nobody turned on their camera. Nobody actually listened.
Join the Zoom, go back to sleep.
That explains a lot. I'm just kidding. We like each other here. Okay, university. What is our proportion? 30. Numbers. I only hear numbers. 70. Together you make 100. All right, 60. 30, 60, 70. What else?
45.
30, 60, 70, 45.
65?
30, 40, 60, 75, 65. What?
I'll vouch for a strong 50.
A strong 50.
I said 15 for middle.
I could only hear 50. Only numbers, people. 50, 65.
67.
Oh.
Like 2/3, like
Yeah. I got that. Marvin.
Where he's going.
65.
65. Nate. 70. Umar.
Oh, I said 65.
65. Lauren.
60.
Wow, everybody. So you have choice. Now the question I have for you is, how many of your classes are within your major?
Like 2.
Like 90%.
Give me percentage-wise. I don't know how many classes you've taken. 2 could be all of the classes you've ever taken.
All of college, like all 4 years, not just this.
All that you have done thus far.
I was like a 70.
7, really?
70% are major. Does that align with your mastery decision? Is that what you said around
Yeah.
60? Did you say 60?
Yeah, I said 70.
You said 70. Okay, I thought that. I didn't want to. Okay. And then the follow-up question here is, did you find that general education classes helped? This is just for personal kind of sidestepping here, but this is for my understanding. Do general education classes help you in your mastery?
Yeah.
Wait, so you're taking gen ed classes that you just don't want to take?
Well, no, it depends on like, well, I think at some point I will have to do that.
But not up until this point.
Yeah, but it's like certain parts of it I feel like don't.
Wait, let's stake in the ground.
I'm not like viewing like each class as like yes, no. Like I'm thinking about like different components
Within each class. Let's just think about the general topic of the class. Like, are you interested in the material?
Mildly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
We gotta keep chugging along here. Okay, so most people. Okay, gen eds. You take gen eds that you care for. Yes.
Yeah, but that's not the primary.
Okay, just yes or no. Yes. Yes or no.
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 No, work avoidance.
No.
Peyton. Umar. Yes or no? Any answer?
No.
Jamie. Nate.
So far, yes.
No. I would say so.
That was yes or no? Yes. No. No. Why?
Because they're not related to our major.
Work
I
avoidance.
feel like there's two ways you can go about it.
Yes. Okay, so work avoidance.
Yeah, even if the class is like interesting, like I was gonna take like a Latin class.
Yes.
Even on the first day, he talked about how it was gonna be so much work. He was like, if you're not ready, drop. So then I dropped.
Damn. I took a Latin class in undergrad. You know what it was classics. I thought about majoring. I thought about a lot of majors. I thought about majoring in classics, and one of it was learning Latin, which is very useful if you want to go into like medical school or law school, because almost everything is in American English or even British English, Latinized. You know, the history of like English language development, and in these particular fields, like knowing Latin constructions and roots is like really helpful. But I bring this up because that professor said, and I will say it to you now, I would recommend, which is hard because our whole education system, to get these things, see everything's connected here, I'm not just writing things for no reason, to get money and to live a happy life, to get a job, supposedly, you're supposed to demonstrate competence and appear intelligent for others, right? Right? So the question that I'm having here is, how can we tell you that it is better for you to develop a mastery orientation, that is going to be the thing that helps you learn the most, which it is, when we don't have a system that actually rewards that? Yes, you might be getting more choice. Yes, it might be progressively, if this is supposed to represent, just if we're averaging whatever, like a funnel, like you get more choice here where you can have the opportunity to develop mastery goals. Then you get here, and your employer, what are they going to ask you? Did you really care about the thing that you studied? Or are you going to format these numbers in this Excel sheet for me and get it on my desk by Friday? Which one do you think the hiring manager really cares for? Fortunately, that's a lot of jobs. Unfortunately, I'm just going to tell you, a lot of jobs are going to, there's a reason Microsoft has been one of the most valuable companies in the world because of Microsoft Excel. That's finance, data science, and if you're computer science, you're working like in VS Code or whatever, which Microsoft also owns, or you're working in Microsoft Word. You're either going to be in a Google Doc, a Word doc, whatever. That's beyond the point. The point that the professor taught, that he told the class that I'm going to tell you is, the unfortunate thing here is that you're not rewarded for taking classes that really push you. And when you really care about something, it doesn't matter so much when you fail, because when you fail, that's when you learn the most. We really should be developing a system of education and in life that rewards failure. School should be treated as training, like sports training. When you fail, you're learning a play, right? Over and over and over again. Maybe you can get subbed out. Maybe you lose your position as a starter. So be it. but you still have the opportunity to learn and fail. Some of the almost every successful entrepreneur in Silicon Valley will iterate the importance of failure. And so to say that, and so the fact that we just, I know this is like not the most eloquently said, but the fact that we have a system that really focuses on this, knowing that this helps with learning outcomes, learning retention, people that are engaged in mastery goal orientations, engaged in deep processing strategies more effectively, more often. It helps in the development of your expertise. And so all of this is to say that you're at this interesting point in history where we know what actually leads to better outcomes for students. It's being in a position like where you're focused on mastery orientation. But the system may not reflect that. So the question, does that make sense to everybody? It's kind of depressing. Better to be aware, I think, than to be not aware. The question that I still have not gotten an answer to is, how do we convince students here that do not see the value in certain forms of education or do not have what would be the traditional building blocks to then engage in this system, right? Students might be work avoidant, right, because it sucks. I remember being in kindergarten and my mom helping me learn words. It was not fun. I remember being in 6th grade memorizing how to spell words. It was not fun. Do I think I was nerdier than most kids in 6th grade? Yes, it was still not fun. And so I want us to go back to this question after this discussion, knowing all of this. What would your strategy be for, imagine, has anybody seen The Office? Has anybody seen the episode Mike's Tots or whatever it is? Yes, I was thinking about bringing that up. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Michael Scott, who is this manager at a paper company, which was the medium before Excel, he promises these kids that he's going to give them a scholarship when they turn 18 to, Marvin knows, to school, to go to college. That helps motivate them. This is why I can talk about this in this class. And then they get to the end of high school, and he's like, I had invested money so that way you would have scholarships. And then he didn't invest the money, and now it's been 15 years, and all these kids can't. It's not funny. These kids can't go to college because of it. I recommend you go watch that episode. It's like a lighthearted take on some of the issues that we're talking about here. This is a very serious issue, but again, I want us to think about that, right? There's certain things that need to be taught. How is it that we can sort of bridge this gap, toe this line, to teach kids that this is necessary, but that we want to avoid this? How do we keep them from doing this and more closely align them here, especially if there are influences in and outside of the school that don't support that? This is a big, lofty question. You are intelligent, capable, experts, some would say, after 11 weeks here in this class. Do we think we can get in our little group talk about it? Open it up? Yeah? This is like Michael Scott. We've got 30 kids here that rely on you to, apply the knowledge that you've learned in this course. Okay, let's get to it. Let's see if I can find the clip.
How video games or sports makes kids want to do it, right? It's like the dopamine that it gives you. And so if kids are getting dopamine from doing work, just like we do.
All right, everybody. I'm hearing great suggestions and ideas. Let's I want to hear each group's position. Who wants to go first? And let's just try to keep it succinct here. There are a few things, and I found the Scott's Tots clip, and we'll watch that to end the day. If you don't want to watch it, you can leave. That's fine. If you're not motivated. Okay, this group up front here. What did we think?
Terrence put it very succinctly. Season the vegetables. All right.
Oh.
You gotta. It's something that's necessary. It's something that's good for you, but you gotta associate it with something good, something that tastes good. Seasoning, but you gotta associate learning and doing your work with something that's fun and enjoyable. So you either associate it with like, all right, do your work for an hour. Associate it with go play for an hour, or try to show kids that there is fun to be had in learning. You just gotta look at it a different way.
So when they do something good, we give them a treat. We pat them on the head.
Condition them.
We do it. We do the Pavlov dog. Is that a nodding because you understand it because you agree?
Yeah, we try us at the same time.
Okay. Functional. Were there any other points? Season the vegetables. Okay, that's going to be number one. Summarizes it. Okay. Did you guys say the same thing in the latter group? Also vegetables or something different?
More like game related. Like
Gamifying
yeah,
things?
like when we played games to learn math or like to do reading, like it was more fun.
And you felt like, I enjoy this. I remember being in geometry class and I like really liked geometry after really hating math, and I did like the next 2 chapters homework like just for fun, and then we had to go do those problems like the next day in class, and I went up to the professor and I was like, I did this already, should I do something else? And he laughed at me. He's like, you didn't do that. Nobody does math for fun. And this was the math teacher. I never did more math for fun afterwards. Motivation went down. Okay, group back here. What do we think?
Sorry, I just need a quick. In order to gamifying, one of my teachers, we would play poker if like after the students did really good. Anyway,
Oh, that's good. A good reward. So yes, this group back here.
What we were talking about was rewarding like progress, not perfection. Like if students like started different baselines, instead of like exclusively grading based on raw numbers, like grading and like kind of like praising and also maybe like fun like little rewards and treats based on like relative progress developmentally to where they began, instead of just like in like a sort of tier list.
So still reward for progress as opposed to end goal, reward, process, which we will get to later on in the course. But okay, good. This group back here, what do we think? How do we solve this problem?
I really like that idea too, but we also talked about like giving rewards and like encouraging it by making learning more fun.
Yeah, I think like a big thing for me was like especially in like my classes in high school, like we would do like I can't remember what it was, but like we would have like our like reward for doing like good on like exams and stuff was getting like to do a cool like experiment. Like it had to do with with what we were learning, but it was a reward because if we all did well and we like stayed and like did all of our homework and everything, we would get it. So it was like almost like we're still learning, but it's like we are motivated to learn because we get to do something fun, even though like we had to like do like a frog one time and like like that one. But for the most part, they were all fun.
Respectable. Okay, so basically all rewards, and then this group up here.
I said like not using threat or fear as a motivator.
Okay.
If you make a kid afraid to fail, they're not going to
Yes.
put themselves in any position where there's a possibility of failing,
Mm-hmm.
and that can lead to work avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
I think we also talked about positive reinforcement, just trying to bring something different, and
Right.
then also focusing on the kid as a person rather than solely their academic ability.
I agree.
That was my-
Humanness. Yes. And then were you a part of this group, or did you?
I would just say, I feel like prioritizing using concepts in like different like scenarios. I think that a lot of kids. I know we talked about it when we talked about transfer and stuff. I feel like if you learn how to learn outside of school,
Yes.
I feel like it can help.
Right. So you can be metacognitively aware of what's going on and how you're actually processing things. I think most of those are really good. I think All great starting points, but I do think there are some flaws here. Do you remember what I told you at the beginning of this semester, talking about tribes that do not have, or groups of people that historically or even now, what the sort of process was for learning what to eat, what not to eat, how to engage in certain activities? Do you remember what the reasoning was that those people gave? Like there are current groups of people who did not have contact with organized society as we know it, and then you had anthropological studies or anthropologists go in and ask you, how do you know that you're supposed to hunt in this way or eat food here as opposed to this? I was told not to, right? I still think that's fundamentally important, right? We're talking about rewards and stuff, but there's also another point that I harp on that I really haven't expressed why a lot. I've said constantly, the fact that I'm just here and I am just this older person that you're supposed to trust, and you are all segregated by age throughout the entirety of your life, and you're just sort of like taught or habituated, you socially learn that you just listen to whoever's in front of you. They have their credentials, the letters in front of their name, right? There's all of this research, and this is coming from an educational psychologist, about what is it that motivates people? What is that really gets them to care and do things? And part of it is treating people like human beings, and I hope I do that with you. But another part of it was also something that I heard from this group, which was, I think it was said facetiously, we should just be the next generation of teachers. When we have a segregated society in the way that we do, where you're only supposed to listen to certain people and whatnot, that makes it harder because people respond to different things, different stimuli from different people, and having for people or students that do not have community or do not have a positive home life, just having somebody there that is not operating in that student-teacher role makes a big difference. And there are also certain things that we didn't even touch on because it hasn't really been the focus of the class, but I think it's also important to note the biggest improvement to math scores and reading scores, et cetera, is there's two things. Does anybody know what they are? We haven't covered it in this class. It's getting kids glasses, getting their eyes checked, and making sure they're not hungry. Like legitimately, people will spend billions of dollars researching what matters to help students learn, and it's just making sure that students aren't hungry and that they can see. If you don't have if you don't have glasses, you've never needed it, I can tell you, it makes a big difference. And so the core point that I just want to leave here is I think it would be interesting leaving this class to think, okay, what are the things that motivate me in here? The structure, but within the structure, who are the people? And then outside at home, who are the people as well? And I think you'd probably find that there's a lot of motivation, a lot of support, a lot of help that you get, whether it's from your immediate friend group, cousins, family, local people in your community. All of these different things feed into you. And if you ever have the opportunity to, spend 30 minutes, even if it's not educational, just being a role model to somebody makes a big difference. We don't have time, but if you're going to be a role model, don't be a role model like Michael Scott. Actually follow through on what you do, because also people learn not from what you tell them, but what you demonstrate to them. And that's something that we see all across development. So thank you, everybody, today. We will continue with motivation tomorrow. I'm going to update the readings because we're going slower, but I think this is more meaningful. And I really enjoy the way class has been operating. So.